on his way. Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Motherfucker, he's on his
A nurse who testified admitted that she'd been briefed by police that Carruth was the main suspect. Rudolph asked how if Sharika had come out of a 6-hour operation, had been given a drug cocktail of sedatives and painkillers, how could anyone be sure she was making accurate statements or that she wasn't being influenced by the people around her? After all, her entire family thought Rae had killed her.
Right.
But a witness named Farrell Blaylock, who had heard gunshots and whose lawn Sharika had driven onto to get help, testified that Sharika told officers Rae had actually fired the gun. Now, again, this doesn't make sense as we know that Rae is not the gunman. So it seems this witness was actually proving the defense's point.
That this has been so sensationalized and everything else that everyone's kind of keying in on Rae in this situation.
Well, and that Sharika is in the vehicle bleeding, telling police and paramedics he had the gun, he shot me, when we know he wasn't the gunman. So again, it's just proving this point, like, how do we know she's making accurate statements? She's gone through a traumatic event. She's telling officers he shot me. And then at the hospital, she's saying the same thing, but she's been given a bunch of painkillers.
And for all we know, she may think that it was Rae that shot her, but doesn't really know.
Well, yeah, but in the 911 call, she was saying that he was in the vehicle in front of her and he slowed down and someone else shot her. So obviously it's just kind of proving the defense's point that she's confused or that she's not thinking clearly.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
Now, against his lawyer's advice, Michael Kennedy took the witness stand, agreeing to testify without a plea agreement in place. He said the only reason he was coming forward was so Sharika's family could know what really happened. He told the jury Rae had made a call, that evening, looking for a vehicle, looking for a gun. He had made all the arrangements for Sharika's murder, including paying this guy, Van Watkins. He asked Kennedy to, like I said, procure a car, a gun, Dylan. Damaging to his statements, he admitted he had not told the entire story during his first testimony. So he'd given a statement at first, then kind of backtracked what he had said. Like he mentioned he was the person who'd gotten the gun, and in the first testimony, he didn't tell that part.
Yeah, so I mean, that just instantly calls into question, if you're lying now, how do I know you weren't lying then? I mean, that's what you get into.
Well, it does. Candace Smith, she took the stand detailing how Rae admitted he didn't want the child and had asked Sharika to have an abortion. She also included that Rae had asked to borrow her car on the evening of the shooting. Candace also told the jurors how Rae admitted that the morning after Sharika's shooting while they were at the hospital, he told her he'd paid someone to do it. But Rudolph pointed out that Candace was mad that Rae canceled plans with her on November 15th to go out with Sharika Adams instead. He also brought up a time that Candace had brought a box cutter to Carruth's house because another woman was there.
Oh, okay.
He asked, quote, "Is there any reason why you're more stable today than you were when you took this box cutter to his house?"
Damn.
I know.
Rudolph's not playing.
Then he revealed she'd gotten 23 calls from the jail, and 4 of the calls had been on the day that Michael Kennedy had given his statement to police. A jailer had overheard Van Watkins on the phone talking about a woman named Candace. Also, Michael Kennedy's arrest for selling crack cocaine in 1996 had not been turned over to the defense. Rudolph often raises suspicions of evidence tampering based on experience that he's had as an attorney. And this information was coming in late at a time when it was not as crucial to the case. So he's pointing out, the prosecution didn't give me this information that this guy has sold crack, is a known drug dealer. That's crucial to my defense, that this guy's a drug dealer, mad that Carruth wouldn't loan him money.
Right.
And now you're giving this to me after he's testified?
Right.
Doesn't really help my case now.
Well, yeah, and he's saying there wasn't full disclosure in the first place. And imagine Rudolph in the Peterson case talking about evidence tampering and things like that.
Yeah.
So this guy doesn't play around with things like that.
Then Charles Shackelford, the pro basketball player who had dated Candace Smith, he took the stand to provide what they called hearsay evidence that supposedly Rae confessed to Candace at the hospital. But his testimony ended up painting Candace as a lying gold digger who had kept her relationship with Carruth a secret, though Shackelford had been paying her bills.
Damn, dude.
I mean,
Now, the very phrase hearsay, and I'm not defending Carruth because I think he's a dumbass. Hearsay evidence, I mean, just sounds like that should not be allowed, right?
I mean, I didn't think it was allowed.
Well, I thought object hearsay is one of the bigger, more common objections when someone's giving testimony.
Well, it could have been that perhaps the prosecution was allowing this in because they thought it helped their case. But then David Rudolph is such a fucking shark that he goes in and ends up taking their witness and like melting the guy down and making this Candace girl look totally like a shit.
Well, yeah, I'm sure his line of questioning was something along the lines, did you know she had a relationship with Rae while she was with you,
and
blah, blah, blah.
And Rudolph had her on the stand questioning her about this relationship, saying, so you were like basically shacked up with Charles Shackelford, a married man, so clearly you don't have any morals, and you're seeing Carruth on the side and you're being dishonest about that. So what else are you being dishonest about?
Damn.
I mean, just totally like knifing these witnesses, dude. I'm telling you, this guy, he's an asshole, but he would be a fucking amazing attorney, it sounds like. So, Charles Shackelford testified that that Candace was jealous that Sharika Adams was carrying Rae's baby.
He said that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Which could give this Candace motivation to lie on Rae.
Well, it just the very picture of a scorned woman, because, if there's any, especially men on the jury, like, she'll say anything. You know what I mean?
A lot of other witnesses like Amber Turner, Michelle Wright, both exes, Rudolph basically pointed that out too. Like, these are two women who ended relationships with Rae on bad terms, and how do we know they're not just saying this stuff about him? Because they're upset. Because they got dumped.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to unpack. Now, Rudolph has done his job as a defense attorney, painting reasonable doubt to jurors. And, well, I'll be honest, to me, I'd have a hard time if I was on this jury being like 100% in with the prosecution's theory.
Well, he didn't just plant one seed. It's almost like he poked holes everywhere he turned.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
As well as discrediting many of the prosecution's witnesses. So I am left with more questions than answers, and I'm not sure as a juror what I'd think, but I might have a hard time with a conviction.
Even if
Just me, personally. Well,
you can reach a point to where you think wholeheartedly that the guy's guilty, but there's still that...
Is there evidence to back it up?
Is there evidence to back it up? Does the prosecution prove their case or their theory of events? And do you have even an inkling of doubt about any of the components of said case? So, I mean, that can happen, right?
Yeah. Well, in the end, Carruth was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, but not guilty on the first-degree murder charges. He was sentenced to 18 to 24 years in prison.
Wow. So Rudolph did his job to a degree because he got premeditation, first-degree murder off the table, right? And okay.
And the death penalty.
So
in prison, Rae was paid $1 a day working as a barber, a far cry from his $36,000 weekly salary with the NFL. On October 22nd, 2018, Rae Carruth was released from prison. He lives in an undisclosed town in Pennsylvania with friends, according to Charlotte Observer reporter Scott Fowler, who extensively covered Rae's case over the past 20 years.
Oh my gosh.
Van Brett Watkins was sentenced to 40 to 50 years in prison for his role in Sharika's murder. In an interview with Fowler, he told the reporter, "I'm looking for a way to murder Rae Carruth."
Okay. Okay.
Michael Kennedy served 10 years for his role in Sharika's murder. Kennedy testified that Carruth had orchestrated the attack on Adams, giving him $100 to buy a gun hours before she was shot. Stanley Abraham, Kennedy's best friend, if you remember, Boss was his nickname. He had been a passenger in the car during the attack. He was given a year in prison and was released in 2001 because his attorney was able to argue that, like, he was just a bystander. He
It's
really
like he just happened to be in the car when this went down.
Yeah, and immediately, like, after this happened, demanded, like, let me out of the car. And yeah, he didn't come forward immediately with it, but, like, he wasn't
Seemed obvious he wasn't part of it.
Yeah. Chancellor Lee Adams was raised by his grandmother Sandra Adams in Charlotte. Considered to be a miracle child, he struggled with brain damage and cerebral palsy. However, like his mother, Chancellor was a fighter. He graduated from Julius B. Chambers High School this year, in June of 2021.
Wow, what a strong young man.
Despite his challenges, Chancellor continues to persevere. His grandmother said, quote, "I have seen Chancellor's determination, how he persists through things, his resilience, and overcoming so many of the odds. The journey of Chancellor and Sandra has engaged the community of Charlotte. Sandra has long since forgiven Rae Carruth for his role in the death of her daughter. She said, quote, "One of the main reasons I want Rae and Chancellor to have a relationship is because Chancellor is his son. And that's why I chose early on to forgive Rae, because I don't feel I can offer unconditional love to Chancellor if I don't forgive Rae. That's his father. It's part of him. Chancellor wouldn't be who he is without Rae. I want them to bond or at least meet again."
Wow. I mean, that's admirable. And I must say, I don't know if I'd be capable of that. But I do think that oftentimes family members that do go that far to truly forgive the perpetrators or the criminals that kill or hurt their people, that they give away, they lift a weight. They give away all that pressure and weight.
They always say hate and anger and resentment. Those are the things that end up eating you up.
Well, yeah.
It doesn't do anything to the other person. You're the one that has to live with that.
No, and I find that admirable because, again, don't know if I'm capable of that. And I think in the end, it probably is better off for those family members.
In an interview with Sports Illustrated.
Illustrated?
I've done a lot of talking today. In an interview, Dylan, with Sports Illustrated.
I said one with them bikinis in it.
She said, quote, "You can focus on what you've lost or what you have left."
Okay.
Wise words from this woman.
Damn, you think you would have come across with any profound quotes like that in a situation like this? Or would you be more animalistic with it?
It's very mind-blowing, reading these interviews with her and just seeing, what a strong person she is.
Well, I think that's just
I think we can just see that she's really a good person.
That's a person who has class.
And she's done a really good job of raising her grandson and just being so supportive of him. And I don't know. I think she's a pretty awesome person.
It's amazing.
My sources for this 2-part have been Charlotte Observer series, written by Scott Fowler. Awesome. He's done so much coverage over the last 20 years. I mean, there's just tons of articles, really in-depth interviews with everybody from Sandra to Theodore, Van Watkins in prison. He got the only interview Van Watkins has ever given recently.
Wow.
I think it was in 2018 when Rae was getting out of prison. He sat down with him. I mean, very intense. You got to read those interviews if you want. The book Carruth, Sex, Money, Murder, and the NFL by William Wyatt. Also, American Justice, the old TV show. The episode Conspiracy to Kill, the Rae Carruth story, which aired in 2001. You can find that on streaming platforms.
Noise.
And then, of course, the show Deadly Sins, Don't Make Me Kill You, which aired in 2015. I believe I found both of those episodes on Amazon.
Oh, well, thank you for that story because I certainly learned a lot more about it.
You did?
Yeah, about how it truly went down and all the nuts and bolts.
So what are you left feeling about Rae in this situation? Do you think he's guilty?
I can't say. I don't know because, he wasn't, he was a bit of a turd in some of these things that you described. But, like you said, at the very least, he had a very good lawyer who did kind of poke holes in a lot of the prosecution's witnesses and parts of their case, and would leave me possibly with some reasonable doubt as to, and I think that jury had a little doubt, is why they, got rid of the first degree and the death penalty charges off the table there. But I don't know. I don't know if I'd say he's straight out innocent, but I do think he was, which oftentimes happens with these young men, is he still was messing with some dumbass people that brought turmoil into his life.
Well, so many of these true crime cases, Dylan, we see people like running with a bad crowd, and then it just sort of leads to like more bad things happening, right?
Yeah, and I don't get it, because these guys are making this incredible amounts of money.
It's like Aaron Hernandez out doing this like dumbass thug wannabe, like gangbanger type of shit, and he's a fucking player making bank doing dumbass shit.
And the world's literally their oyster. They can, they can do anything and invest and have money the rest of their life. Their kids be set up and just be well off, and they're still running around doing this dumb shit. So at the very least, I think he was still messing around with some knucklehead, dumbass, violent people for various reasons, and it brought some, it
definitely seems to me the old phrase "idle hands are the devil's plaything" is true in this situation, because it's like Rae was benched for injuries. He wasn't playing, and he seems like somebody who was so hyper-focused on football. It was his whole life.
Well, it's like it kept him out of trouble and on the right track.
And then the minute he's not playing and he meets this dumbass drug dealer who's like, "Hey, man, I like your rims," and then they start hanging out.
Yeah.
It's just like it leads to all this shit.
So, yeah, I guess I really don't know either way, but I definitely didn't know all those details. And it's very unfortunate. She was definitely attacked, and eventually it led to her murder. And her child survived, but he had serious issues he faced all his life, let alone the fact his mother was murdered. And I don't know. It's just a sad story.
It's a really sad story for Sharika and Chancellor and Sharika's family.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's just such a hard situation. But I think I would have a hard time if I were on the jury, because I do feel like Rudolph was a great defense attorney. He poked a lot of holes in the case, as you said, Dylan. But it's just a crazy story, right? I mean, talk about a fall from grace.
It's true. Look, I know we need to get going here, but before we leave, can I say something?
Sure.
I had a discussion today at work with a guy. He was talking about, isn't it funny how the Ghislaine trial or whatever is really not getting a lot of coverage in the media, but we had Rittenhouse trial every single minute, and hiccup and burp and fart on TV being discussed at length every night on every channel. But the Ghislaine, of course, Epstein's co-conspirator.
I love that you're calling her Ghislaine.
Well, yeah, I got that from the last pod, guys. What is it, Ghislaine?
I think it's Ghislaine.
Well, fuck her.
Ghislaine.
A piece of shit who went out and prayed and hunted victims for Epstein.
I agree.
God knows what else. So I'm calling
you
Ghislaine.
know why. You know why they're not covering it. You've seen that Epstein flight log. You got fucking ex-presidents and everybody on that list. Bill Gates.
What about the Manhattan apartment fully wired for audio and sound?
Yeah.
What evidence is there?
Okay. I mean, I know that when we get into talking about like child sex trafficking and, people think, oh, it's just this QAnon bullshit, right? We have proof that you have these high profile men involved in sex trafficking. So it is a thing. And if you want to deny and be like, our government's not involved in that, bullshit. You have 2 ex-presidents on that flight log. Going to Epstein's Lolita Express plane, going to the island.
Countless CEOs, men in powerful positions.
Yeah.
And I just listened to that Dateline about that Nygaard.
Peter Nygaard, the fashion designer, same shit.
He had his own little
thing.
sex island there in the Bahamas.
His little key.
It was actually a compound or house in a very prominent area there in the Bahamas.
You had the guy Jimmy Savile in England. You had.
Oh my God.
I mean.
So I mean, I don't know.
These sex rings do exist, and yeah, I'm not a QAnon person, and yeah, I think some of that's crazy, like Pizzagate, but do I believe that this shit happens? Yes, we have proof of it. And we see why they don't crack down on
that makes me sick.
These sex traffickers and this shit, because they're all involved in it.
And why they quietly sweep it to the side when it comes out at the highest levels.
Ghislaine will probably get the most minimum sentence ever.
Some people think Epstein's not even dead. He was shuttled out of made to look like he died.
He was suicided.
And he was gotten out of jail and somewhere living with a reconstructed face.
He was fake suicided.
And at the level of money he had on top of connections and the dirt he had on people, that is not beyond the realm of possibility that they snuck him out of jail, basically, and he's had his face redone, and he's still got that weird egg dick.
He's living in the Arctic Circle with Hitler.
With the Nazis.
Yup. You think so?
Maybe because, Germany lost a war, the Nazis didn't. Look at Operation Paperclip. We brought all their worst scientists over here and put them into NASA and all that shit. Okay, I got to go now.
America, fuck yeah. We live in an amazing country.
We're going to continue this conversation, Heather, for the next 9 hours in the car.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay,
all right.
We're going to hit the road. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We're still iffy on if we'll have an offbeat out this week, because we are going out of town for a couple of days. Dylan's still got his crazy work schedule. But we have a case ready to go for next weekend, the weekend after Christmas.
Look, I've got to say
It's going to be awesome.
My shit's going to calm down. My work bullshit's calming down. And we're going to get back on track because we missed you all.
Dylan has.
We have to talk to you twice a week.
Dylan needs it. He loves to hear himself on the microphone.
Oh, and I just like to connect.
He hears his little voice in the headphones, and he just smiles. He loves to hear the sound of his own voice.
All right, but for now, ta-ta.
Hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Whatever you celebrate. If you don't celebrate, have a great week.
Stuff your mouth with ham.